Would you believe me if I told you that researchers have found a brand new and possibly independent planetary system at the edge of the solar system? NASA has now revealed what is really hiding in the Kuiper belt, and it shows us a world full of bizarre objects that may follow completely different laws than the rest of the solar system. Countless small planets, extreme trans-Neptunian objects, and enigmatic asteroids open our eyes to a world that was previously almost completely in the dark. Exploration of the Kuiper belt is only just beginning. For a long time, this region was at the edge of our solar system, far beyond the reach of our research facilities. Around 30 to 55 astronomical units away from the Sun, hardly any light reaches these areas, and so this region is very difficult for telescopes to see. Nevertheless, the Kuiper belt has been known for a long time. In the 1950s, astronomer Gerard Kuiper discovered that there must be a structure behind Neptune that is similar to the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Kuiper came to this conclusion because, despite their invisibility, the objects orbiting the Sun here leave traces in the overall structure of the solar system. As technology progressed, we found out more and more about this enigmatic region. The Kuiper belt was formed over 4.6 billion years ago from the protoplanetary nebula that surrounded the young solar system. The objects in the Kuiper belt are remnants of this early phase. Dwarf planets, comets, rocks of all sizes, and dust can tell us the story of the beginnings of the solar system today. Almost all the objects that cavort here have one thing in common. They could not accumulate enough mass to become large, round objects. Even the smaller planets of the Kuiper belt have not been able to accumulate enough mass to become fully fledged planets. The Kuiper belt extends over a width of about 25 AU to 50 AU, which corresponds to 3.7 to 7.4 billion kilometers. The inaccuracy in the data is simply due to the fact that the region has been little explored to date and contains some very elliptical and obliquely orbiting objects in the so-called scattered disk. It is estimated that there are over 100,000 objects in the Kuiper belt with a diameter of more than 100 kilometers. Researchers estimate that the total number of all objects, including smaller pieces of ice and rock, is in the billions. We are currently unable to determine the exact number, as these small objects cannot be seen even with our best telescopes. The Kuiper belt is therefore a region that offers plenty of material for new discoveries and previously unknown phenomena within the solar system. Pluto is the gateway to the Kuiper belt. Hardly anyone knew that Pluto is not the only planet behind Neptune. Its discovery in 1930 was considered a sensation, and for a long time, the search for planets was over. Nobody knew that Pluto was not alone. Can you imagine that we didn't have a single clear image of Pluto until the New Horizons probe visited the dwarf planet in 2015? It's a largely unknown fact, as school textbooks and the internet used artistic representations of Pluto for a long time, and hardly anyone knew that these images weren't real at all. It wasn't until 2015 that we got the first sharp image of Pluto, after Hubble gave us a rather blurry picture. Before that, Pluto was more of a mathematical quantity and a cosmic phantom, at least when it came to its face and features like its surface texture. Now, not only do we know that Pluto has a heart, but we know of mountains of frozen nitrogen and honeycombed landscapes that suggest active geological events. Pluto's surface turned out to be surprisingly colorful and varied. This small planet also has the largest moon in the solar system in terms of size. Charon was discovered in 1978 and is so large and massive that Pluto and Charon may in fact be a double dwarf planetary system. Pluto's other four moons, Nix, Hydra, Kerberos, and Styx, are much smaller and rather misshapen objects. Since 2006, Pluto is officially no longer a real planet, but only a trans-Neptunian object and a dwarf planet. This downgrading was due to the discovery of a category of planets that form a completely separate system in the Kuiper belt. Where do the dwarf planets come from? No one had expected this. The fact that there are other small planets cavorting at the edge of the solar system was another scientific sensation. Ever since we learned about objects such as Eris, Makemake, and Haumea, we have been increasingly fascinated by them. It is possible that the dwarf planets, which now include Pluto, form a world of their own that we are only slowly beginning to understand. The largest of them, Eris, is only slightly smaller than Pluto, with a diameter of about 2,326 kilometers. You can imagine it to be almost as wide as the United States from east to west. Although this small planet is slightly smaller than Pluto, it is more massive. This mystery intrigues scientists, and many researchers want to find out more about Eris and its surface composition soon. Haumea is the next surprise within the Kuiper belt because this mini planet rotates so fast that it's pulled into an elongated shape. Haumea's diameter of 1,632 kilometers is about as wide as the Grand Canyon is long. Makemake is a little smaller at around 1,430 kilometers, and this tiny planet could be an exciting icy object similar to the icy moons of Saturn and Jupiter. Each of these dwarf planets tells its own story about the diversity and complexity of our solar system, and researchers suspect that there could be many more dwarf planets in the Kuiper belt that we have not yet discovered. Extreme trans-Neptunian objects prove the existence of Planet 9. Who would have thought it could be even more mysterious? With the appearance of extreme trans-Neptunian objects, or ETNOs for short, astronomers have once again opened an exciting chapter in the exploration of the outer regions of the solar system. This completely new class of objects is characterized by their unusual and wide orbits. Among the best-known representatives of the group are Sedna and 2012 VP113, also known by its nickname Biden. These objects are located far beyond the orbit of Neptune and stretch the boundaries of our solar system in an unusual way. Sedna is a particularly enigmatic object whose orbit takes it up to 936 AU from the Sun. This extends far beyond the known boundaries of the Kuiper belt, and the orbit is so extreme that it takes Sedna over 11,000 years to orbit the Sun once. The discovery of Sedna in 2003 was groundbreaking because it showed that the solar system is far larger than we had imagined and may consist of an as yet undiscovered population of distant objects. 2012 VP113 is nicknamed Biden and is another ETNO orbiting up to 80 AU from the Sun. Like Sedna, Biden has a very elongated and unusual orbit, suggesting that it may have been influenced by the gravitational forces of an unknown, distant massive object. And this fact is particularly exciting because it could be a clue to the enigmatic ninth planet. The orbits of ETNOs, such as Sedna and 2012 VP113, have prompted scientists to look more seriously at the possibility of a previously unknown new planet. Up until this point, ideas surrounding Planet X, or the object known as Planet 10 before Pluto's demotion, were considered pure legend. This hypothetical Planet 9 could be massive enough to gravitationally influence the orbits of ETNOs and could explain why these objects are so far from the Sun and traveling in such unusual orbits. Research into ETNOs could therefore completely change our view of the solar system once again. Proponents of the Planet 9 theory assume that the planet is on an orbit that takes it far beyond the previously assumed boundaries of the solar system and, like Sedna, only allows it to enter the inner regions of the solar system every 11,000 years. This would explain why we have not yet seen this planet, which would probably be somewhat smaller than Neptune. Aroth, the gentle flying potato. Bet you didn't know what the strangest object in the entire solar system is. It's Aroth, formerly known as 2014 MU69. We've only known about this fascinating object in the Kuiper belt since NASA's New Horizons space probe passed by in 2019. This special orbiting body, which is around 6.6 billion kilometers away from Earth, has puzzled scientists. Some jokingly call Aroth a flying potato. Others see a dumbbell or simply an astronomical oddity in the object. Aroth is far more than just an impressive example of the complex and diverse objects in the outer reaches of our solar system. It probably has a unique story of its own. Aroth was previously spotted by the Hubble Space Telescope in June 2014, when astronomers were looking for the next target for the New Horizons mission. The name Aroth comes from the Algonquin Indian language and means sky. This name was intended to finally honor the culture of the indigenous peoples in astronomy and allude to the position of the object high in the sky of our solar system. Aroth is both a classic Kuiper belt object and unique. The contact double lobe shape which consists of two originally separate bodies, indicates that two objects have gently merged here. It is precisely this fact that makes objects like Aroth so interesting for scientists. Its unique shape provides important clues about the collision history and accretion processes in the early solar system. The two lobes of Aroth are each around 22 kilometers and 15 kilometers in size. The connection between the two indicates that the two parts came together very slowly. The high-resolution images from New Horizons also revealed a strikingly smooth and red surface covered with methane ice, as well as a whole series of surface structures such as hills, ridges, and craters. The red color of Aroth is probably caused by the effect of cosmic rays on organic compounds on its surface. These cosmochemical processes are interesting because organic compounds are always possible messengers of life. Scientists would love to send a probe to this exciting object, but when this will happen is still written in the stars. The greatest challenge of such missions lies in the enormous distances involved. In order to send out a probe, we would have to wait for a particularly favorable constellation that would bring all the interesting objects in the Kuiper belt as close to us as possible. Even then, it would still take a good decade for a probe to reach the objects in the Kuiper belt. At the moment, NASA's efforts are focused on missions to the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn, where liquid water and possibly life are suspected under the thick layers of ice. Beyond the orbit of Neptune is one of the most mysterious regions of the solar system, the Kuiper belt. According to current estimates, this flat, ring-shaped area is home to more than 70,000 objects, with a diameter of more than 60 miles, and countless other structures. The problem is that so far, experts have only been able to classify a small fraction of these thousands and thousands of objects. The strange discovery made by NASA's New Horizons spacecraft in the Kuiper belt a few years ago could provide us with an authentic insight into those great mysteries that have yet to be uncovered there in the future. What this mysterious structure might be, and why some people believe that we are actually dealing with an extraterrestrial spacecraft, you'll find out in today's video. Departure into unexplored worlds. It is January 19th, 2006, when NASA's New Horizons spacecraft leaves our blue home planet. As part of the New Frontier program, the unmanned spacecraft was to accomplish something no other human-made object had ever succeeded in doing before: directly exploring Pluto. When New Horizons set off into the gigantic expanses of space, Pluto was still a permanent member of our planetary system. It was not until August 24th, 2006, that our remote neighbor's planetary end came. The International Astronomical Union redefined the concept of a planet so that Pluto was placed into the newly opened ranks of dwarf planets. In April 2015, the time had finally come. New Horizons had reached the realms of Pluto and produced the first combined color image of the dwarf planet and its small moon, Aeron. The high-resolution images taken in the following weeks presented Pluto's surface in a previously unknown level of detail. After fixing a computer problem, it was time for the flyby of the dwarf planet on July 14, 2015. New Horizons approached Pluto to within 7,500 miles, clocking a speed of almost 9 miles per second. In the process, global maps of the dwarf planet and its natural satellite were made, temperature measurements were taken, and the surface and atmospheric composition were explored. Due to the vast distance that prevailed between Earth and New Horizons, the transmission of the collected data took more than 15 months. Then, in the summer of 2016, NASA gave the green light to fund the secondary mission. From then on, the program went by the name Kuiper Belt Extended Mission and focused on studying one particular object, Ultima Thule. Strange double body. Since Ultima Thule was christened with the final name Aroth in November 2019, let's also stick with the official name of the experts in the following. On January 1st, 2019, New Horizons finally managed to pass Aroth at a distance of just 1,800 miles. But what is this structure actually about in detail? Officially, Aroth is classified as a trans-Neptunian object, which consists of two touching bodies. The larger component has a diameter of 12 miles, while the smaller part has a diameter of 8 miles. The exploration of this bizarre-looking double body was nothing less than an astronomical milestone. Aroth is the first small and at the same time the most distant Kuiper Belt object to be studied in detail by a space probe. While the experts had assumed in advance that the asteroid presents itself in the form of a classic snowman, the images taken by New Horizons showed the true face of the structure. The larger body is much flatter than expected and resembles a pancake. The smaller component, in turn, can be compared to a dented walnut. In addition, we now know that Aroth has a reddish hue and needs almost 16 hours for a complete rotation. However, this exciting structure was by no means the only strange object New Horizons encountered during its journey through space. Several years earlier, the spacecraft passed a previously unknown object that has repeatedly been the focus of controversial theories: the trans-Neptunian object, Aeron. Flying mystery. That the ominous structure in the Kuiper Belt exists was known sometime before the launch of New Horizons. On May 12, 1994, Anna Zeitkow and Mike Irwin succeeded in detecting the body in the firmament with the help of the Isaac Newton telescope. Officially, Aeron is classified as a Plutino. This class includes objects in the Kuiper Belt whose orbital elements are similar to those of Pluto. More than 20 years after its initial discovery, on November 2, 2015 to be exact, New Horizons dedicated itself to the task of capturing Aeron on image. While Pluto and Aroth were to be studied from relatively close distances, the distance in the case of Aeron turned out to be considerably greater. When the spacecraft captured the object with the LORI camera, it was 170 million miles away from New Horizons. The later observation in April of the following year was made from a distance of 66 million miles. At the same time, Aeron was also targeted by the Hubble Space Telescope. This combined observation made it possible to determine the orbit of the structure to within 600 miles. In advance of this in-depth exploration, the possibility that Aeron embodies a so-called quasi-satellite of Pluto was discussed. This term refers to small co-orbital companions of larger celestial bodies. Quasi-satellites orbit large celestial bodies with the same orbital period as their host stars. However, with the help of the data collected by New Horizons and Hubble, this theory could be ruled out. Therefore, a central question remains: what is Aeron? The unrevealing answer is, we don't know at this time. What is certain is that the object has a rotation period of just under 5.5 hours. At the same time, the findings so far indicate that it has an extremely uneven surface. Where the official facts reach their limits, wild speculation begins. If one follows the remarks of some researchers, Aeron is not of natural origin at all. It is postulated to be the spaceship of an intelligent extraterrestrial civilization. But what is this exciting theory based on? Artificial gravity. Basically, scientists assume that most of the objects in the Kuiper Belt consist mainly of rock and ice. However, the rotational behavior of Aeron now suggests that its material composition must be significantly different from this basic scheme. According to this, the body rotates so fast that it could be torn apart by centrifugal force unless it is made of a much harder material. In fact, Aeron's striking rotational motion is said to serve an almost unbelievable purpose, and that is to generate artificial gravity. So far, we know such a technology only from classic science fiction movies. In principle, however, the generation of artificial gravity does not seem impossible, but we are still light years away from its practical implementation. This exciting idea is by no means new. As early as the early 1950s, rocket engineer Wernher von Braun was toying with the idea of simulating gravity using centrifugal force. To this end, he developed a model of a rotating space station in the form of an oversized wheel. As a result of the rotating motion, a centrifugal force is created that acts on the inside of the wheel-shaped station in a similar way to gravity. What sounds both simple and plausible in theory encounters major complications in reality. To create a gravitational pull equivalent to that on Earth, the space station would have to be about a half mile in diameter. Another possibility would be for the construct to rotate around its own axis at extreme speed. However, the effort that would be required for this is simply not feasible with our current resources. However, the unrealizable requirements are not the only reason why we have not yet succeeded in generating gravity artificially. In fact, we still know too little about the background of gravity. It's certain that masses attract each other due to the size an attraction force is created, but how this attraction of the masses works in detail remains an unsolved secret. In this respect, Einstein described in his general relativity theory an interaction between time, space, and matter. Gravity produces a curvature of space, which is the basis of the mass attraction. If one follows the explanations of the quantum theory, then a certain particle must be responsible for this phenomenon. However, so far, researchers have not proven its actual existence. Should this mysterious graviton be discovered one day in the distant future, it could pave the way for the generation of artificial gravity. A spaceship? But why should we even try to create gravity in an artificial way? Isn't a stay in weightlessness the epitome of boundless freedom? Not at all, because in fact, the consequences of weightlessness can lead to some serious health problems. For example, muscle and bone substance decrease, and the disturbed sense of balance leads to nausea and dizziness. Because cerebrospinal fluid cannot drain properly in weightlessness, brain contusions can occur, resulting in visual disturbances. So is the crew of Aeron a few steps ahead of us in this respect? Does such a complex spaceship even exist? As exciting as the stories about artificial gravity generation may sound, there is one thing we should not forget. There is currently no solid evidence that the structure in the Kuiper belt is actually an object of artificial origin. However, this also applies to the opposite. As long as Aeron's background has not been clearly revealed, there are no limits to adventurous conjectures. Now it's your turn. What do you think about the exciting research mission of New Horizons and the rumors about Aeron? Could it really be an alien spaceship? As always, write us your thoughts, suggestions, and feedback on today's video in the comments below. Are you in the mood for more exciting contributions on the topic of outer space? Then take a look at the other videos on our channel, which you can access by clicking on one of the images in the credits. Thanks for your interest, take care, and we'll see you next time.